So have your contacts or your guides or the Sasquatch or any of the above, have they given you any universal truths? That's
Life
a dumb
energy.
question. That's probably a dumb question, but I mean, what would they be?
Well, one of them would be, I mean, besides the divine field and those people that don't seem to know how to just treat your fellow human being and life with love and the divine field. More, I think for us, it's where we're going is what they showed me, which is the incorporation of organic technology and not such a loss of spirit to stop us from maybe going to Skynet way all the way and doing like these craft I've been on board, were organic. So they were sentient in a way. So when we start hearing things about mycelium and then building places on Mars that will be built of mycelium and things like that, and also space organisms and becoming aware of them, is I think that's the way of the future. Something that just came out. I try to stay somewhat abreast of science. And they just released something a couple of years ago called xenobots. These real little organic, like cybernetic organisms that will repair cells and do things like that. And they kind of look like little Pac-Mans on a microscopic level. But what they truly are self-repairing and self-replicating organic robots, more or less. But I mean, and then we start incorporating that with things like 3D printing of organs and things. I think that's where we're going, and what we're seeing, that some of the things that they're showing us. But we've got to keep the spirit and organic factor with it. And I think that you might agree that Sasquatch represents that, because we're out of tune with nature. If we weren't so out of tune for nature, they wouldn't have a whole culture that is based on what we just talked about, but illegal to even be seen by us. Man, that means humanity's screwed up. You get a race of Yodas come through here in a spaceship, they're going to say, waiter, check, please. They're going to keep going. They're not going to stop here. This has got the Empire all over it, man. Vader's in control down here, man.
But you're right about the organic thing. That's the way to go. And one of the ways that I always had it described to me about how to go invisible. By the way, I have got one part of my body to go invisible one time, and you use high energy through your breath, and then you have to have high emotion, and then you have to have a really good clear image of what you want. So high energy, high emotion, high visualization, right? And I think again it was Mike Bodowitz who's his Sasquatch was telling them how they do it. Is they focus in and focus their imagination in on their atoms, and what they do is they take their atoms and just move them further apart. And as soon as you move the atoms further apart, the light can go through. Only when atoms are bunched together do the light bounce off. So how far apart they move their atoms is whether they look like the predator, so you can see something there, or if they move them apart enough, they're still in physicality. They can do all these kind of things, but the light goes right through them, and you're not on the same light frequency anymore. Now, that is also how they build craft. These beings, with their energy and their high emotion, high love, and their high concentration of visualization, they actually visualize the atoms of a ship coming together as an organic living being, because they're organic living beings. And that's profound technology, when you can use source energy to create a living sentient being. That's what these crafts are.
Actually done a video about this. Like, from when they gave me a compound that they're using, and it would consist of, first is minerals from planets that are devoid of Van Allen belts. So you're getting like those type of metamaterials, those metals that are getting hit by solar radiation unknown, like here on Earth. Okay. And then the second thing would be a type of a fungus. Okay. And then 3, a type of quasi-crystal substance also, which is also some of the power too, in a way. And then the DNA of the crew. These 4 things are combined and then grown over a micro mako. Okay. And that's why the engine is also spatially displaced. and when getting to that, and I've been on board with this craft is for the size it was in the air. The first room that they pull me into is, first of all, as big as this whole craft or bigger. It looked like a type of a cargo bay. And, and when being in there, I haven't done a video of this, I got the impression that as a living being in this craft, that down there in that belly is where other craft were constructed by other races that actually put their intent, pure intent, like you're speaking of, actually making a craft like that. And it becomes, but it's also part of the reproductive process. Now, Michael, I didn't actually see a craft growing in there like that, but I believe that's what that room was capable of.
Yeah, you felt it. You felt it, though.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, there's a box in there. I go over and look at this box, and the box is like at this angle. What do you call it? A 90-degree angle. And when I look at it, looking at, man, it's this thing called temporal aphasia, is what they call it. It's getting sick, like you're in a merry-go-round. Oh, and there's a reason why. I've seen people on a craft when my first experiences started up, adult experiences of 17. I wake up on board this craft, and there's I used to think it was an engine, but I think it's a brain now. And when I get upstairs, okay, and it's weird how you want to go upstairs, you're suddenly just there, and you're getting even sicker then. And I see this people, a group of about 7-8 people that are transparent, and they're going one at a time, going over and touching the edge of the deck where this light is coming from the bottom all the way up, this living light, as the beings call it. They're touching it and then going back, but they're transparent. I can see that some of the beings will be transparent on some of these things. Some will be physical, but guess what? I'm watching them, but I'm there holding my gut, about to puke because of the way I'm spinning. Then you've got these beings telepathically in your mind. Then you're
your atoms are coming apart, man. Your atoms are coming apart. That's what it was, man. Who's gonna be just like relaxed while your atoms actually move apart? Like, you know what I mean? You look the same, but man, hey, whoa.
You know what's interesting though? Those people that were in their dream bodies, their energy body, they weren't having none of this temporal aphasia I was. They were enjoying their experiences. I was not. You know what I mean? So I know why now, why they go and bring some of us energetically, and why they have this bi-location technology, and why it works so well. Also a great way to be a historian too. But anyway, so yeah.
I got this question for you. How many times have you been on a craft, back on Earth, or from Earth onto a craft consciously while you're awake?
Several times. But the thing is this, like I mentioned before, when you get back, when you're placed back, you're right there. It's just like being on a field trip. You just got back from a field trip. You know everything. The beings, everything, the information was given.
Fully
immediately it starts splintering. Immediately. And I've been with somebody else, and we're talking, about this, about everything, so all this information that we got, even if we weren't together on board this craft, what was given and what happened. By the time I'm trying to drive back to town real quick so I get this on paper, so I get it on a recorder. And by the time I get to town, 10, 15 minutes, they're looking at me going, what just happened? And so we're looking at forgetting everything. We're forgetting, and that takes you in that realm of, oh no, did they wipe our minds? All those weird things that the media puts in your mind. But so for me, the physical experiences were disconcerting, because the further I got away from the event horizon, the more they start becoming dreamlike or something, when they were not. You know what I mean? Especially the ones when I would wake up, when I was a kid, I would wake up on these craft. I might fall asleep a little bit and I just wake up and I'll be there.
Right.
And then, then when I fucking slightly go out and be back, you know what I mean? But the next day, oh my gosh, as a kid, feeling like I not slept all night, because it's a physical experience. I was awake, dealing with these things in these rooms and trying to move the stuff with my mind and all the stuff they're asking to do. And I can't even see the teacher. You know what I mean? They're non-corporeal. So that stuff there, but the physical, the next day of not not sleeping, that's unmistakable. So that's the thing there for me, But
to me, that's a big deal, because I think you got to imagine that if we've got like whatever it is, 100 million people or however many people that have been on a craft, that means they have cellular memory of transforming their body into energy, thought, or light, and it goes up on a craft, it reforms, and then when they come back, it's just like you said, it's just like You just think about coming back, or somebody thinks for you to go back, and you go back, and there you are looking around like I was on a craft 3 seconds ago. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but there's something about the bodily memory. You know that we can do that. That is
Yeah.
that's actually a kind of a teaching of invisibility or what do they call it? Transporting or something. What do they call that when you go from one place to another?
Teleportation. Yeah.
Teleport. That's it.
Yeah.
So we actually know how to do it. That's a real thing. And millions of people now know how to do it, except they're not thinking about it because they're still thinking about the craft or something. But wait a minute, I just teleported. And when it happened to me, the most shocking thing, because I did it consciously 3 times, right? I went from the ship down to my bedroom, went out for a smoke, came back, went back up to the ship, and then when I was finished up there, I came back down 3 times. I felt nothing. Zero zip, no motion, no transition. It was instantaneous. I didn't feel strange, or you think to be teleported, it would be like a big deal. Oh man, I'm teleporting over to Nebraska. No, you don't feel anything. You feel exactly the same. Yeah.
I've had a ship that we would call a pure conscious craft actually materialize around us.
Wow.
And I'd seen it happen over a pond before. I watched the thing, all of a sudden a light appear and it like materializes. But they do the same thing materialize around us. And it's on brainwave frequencies, I'm pretty sure, just like the Makos. But that feeling and trying to have a frame of reference what actually happens is really hard. And when I actually was taken and they pulled me aboard this craft, I didn't feel like I was really in motion. You know what I mean? But I will say that when we have these experiences and the cellular memory, that is why hypnosis is very important. It should not be discredited. I was one of those people who went through a long time. I'm not like Travis Walton. They didn't wipe my mind. I'm Mr. Conscious Experiencer. But the truth is, man, for missing 20 hours of missing time, the crap I could remember was minuscule. I was missing all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean? But I was against hypnosis for that reason. Then I went and became a hypnotist. And it was only to try to hypnotize myself so I could get the missing time. And I couldn't do it. I could hypnotize other people like that, but I had to go lay down and let somebody do me to get this missing time back. But when people say that, it doesn't count if you get hypnotized, whatever. This is stuff that occurs on the superconscious level, the subconscious level, within the cellular memory, like you just said. And who the hell are any of these people to tell you, hey, don't experiment with your own consciousness. Don't explore your own consciousness. It's not valid. Who the hell are they to say that? So that's important because that's the only way you can access it. And sometimes these deep, like theta states, are almost go delta to get some of this stuff. It's important because it's so fast. And the amount of people that are contactees, we said that large amount of people, especially before the era of drones, have seen the UFO, like we said, the stuff that they may have been downloaded, or I don't like that word either, communicated during just seeing that for a couple of seconds is immense. And the stuff they'll get out of and stuff that comes in the dream state. Most of us don't have, like me, don't have enough freed up energy. I'm not in my dreams. I was then I was controlling it. And I went over here. Then I went over there. You know how long it took me just to look at my hands, man? It took so much meditation to say, man. It took a long time, So anyway, but just point being, I think it's very important that we evolve ourselves consciously. I think the Sasquatch are trying to help us with that. They're here with that, and my question would be this: what do you all think about the ones with the red eyes that are these savages that seem to be placed here to create this monster caricature? Who are those type? Are they natural Sasquatch? Do you think are they AI? What are they? These gugwees and these.
I've never had any experience with them, so I really can't say.
And
Much like you,
Sasquatch with red eyes, it doesn't mean anything. Some people say it's angry, and some people say it's a reflection from the light. But when their light turns, when the light in their eyes is white, and white with maybe a light blue tint, you're looking at the light of God within them, And
Yeah.
if you knew in your heart what that was, you would fall on your face in prostration. They'll step out behind a tree with white light coming out of their eye. And you're seeing the embodiment of God standing out there, because in order to have light coming out of your eye, your whole being has to be filled with light. Like Christ said, when thine eyes become single, your whole being is filled with light. Woo, I'm getting a little Brian buzz on that one. When thine eyes become single, your whole being will be filled with light. That's an enlightened man. That's like a Christ consciousness kind of a thing. And when you hear that, and that happens a lot of people see that and they don't have any clue, because we're dumbed down about the Eastern religions and what it means to be an enlightened man or a holy man.
You know,
I would also say that with that these entities, malevolent and benevolent, can present themselves to us in any form that they want. So maybe some of these Sasquatch with red eyes are not actually Sasquatch. There's something else trying to deceive us or something.
I feel there's some sort of demon that's put here to discredit the Sasquatch of all different types. That's the one I think that's put here to discredit, and it goes in couple with some of the theories that they used to steal children and all that. I mean that stuff that is to discredit and keep that separation. I do believe that.
They have a powerful universal message. At least that's what they've shown me. So they want anybody who's on the opposite side of the equation would want to discredit them.
Something else you mentioned, the light coming out of eyes. That's similar to what, I took interest. I've had experience with insectoids, but they weren't the praying mantis type quite, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, when I start looking at some of those accounts of people, especially say they've dealt with the bigger, taller praying mantis, or even the black praying mantis, the melanin dominant, describe around their mouth area this light being emitted, or being from the back of their head being emitted. And in such, these beings say that they're basically life carriers, that they seed solar systems and then monitor them for a time.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to scare you, Barry, but I don't want to get into the story because I've said it many times on the air, but I actually I was taken to a different reality where I was a praying mantis being.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was kind of freaky actually, until I started thinking, well, I can own this, because I found out, like you said, about some of their attributes and their good qualities and stuff. I was gonna say, so I had I have a couple comments. So I would think that a lot of implants are probably for good reasons. But what do you know about implants, and what do you think of them?
It takes us into not just the area of nanotech, but the pico too. And I kept thinking, what is that law that each year the amount of information on a chip gets smaller and smaller? And we start taking that, and with things we were talking about, like the Mako and things, and these civilizations that wouldn't be type 1, but type 2, 3, 4, where they're using actually the fabric of space and these wormholes, these Makos themselves as a prime power source. That takes us into the things like these places that would be exploring the universe on the inner space. You know what I mean? In terms of they've gotten so small, and their molecules and everything. And I think that's what we're seeing in some of these implants, is the ones that it was a Dr. Lear had pulled. Several of them, they said, had enough carbon nanotubes inside them to stretch like 5 miles. That's intense. And you go even lower than that, you go to the pico, you're dealing with civilizations that are able to compact things in that nature. Can you imagine what a Dyson sphere would be? Like a Death Star that would be actually encapsulate a whole solar system, including the star, a Dyson sphere, and they would discover humanity and the universe, inner space, like Martin Short. Sorry, just kidding. But anyway, but that would be the way that would go. And I think that when you're dealing with these implants, that's one fashion of them. And whether they're used just to track, whether they're used to awake, I don't know. I haven't had any implants I'm aware of, but it's a fascinating concept. Just the amount of technology needed to make the implants that Dr. Lear discovered, as far on the nanoscale and the pico scale, is really interesting and a
What
bit
is the
scary.
what is the general consensus of them among the so-called experts? Because, and I don't say that with a criticism, but I mean, this is such a deep and evolved subject that experts is like, we're just like little babies to discovering this. But the people who have dealt with them, what is their general thought on the implants? Are they good or bad?
I've always heard that they're tracking devices, and some people say that they might emit impulses, something like quantum dots that awaken something in us. But I think more they're tracking devices. And the fact that some of us have these contact experiences like me, and I've never had an implant put in me, anything I'm aware of, and I think so. I think it's more of a tracking deal, and it may be a way, who knows, even to decipher certain bloodlines. Who knows the stuff that they're doing? It's something,
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't have a definitive answer, sadly. But
Can I get you to comment on an experience my wife and I had, and it might actually, when we talk about stuff on the show, it opens up things in other people too. So I'm sure maybe some other people, I've heard of other people I've talked to have had the same experience, but can I get your thoughts on it?
Sure.
So first of all, the Sasquatch people told me that they wanted my wife and I together because we had work to do for them. So they brought us together and they confirmed it through glyph messages and energy and so many different ways. But about 2 or 3 years before we met, we were married to other individuals. And while we were sleeping in our beds at night, and this happened in around the same time period for both of us, we kept waking up and seeing little droplets of blood in our bed. And we could never explain it. We never had a nosebleed. We had never had any open cuts or whatever, but we never had any explanation for it. And then, a couple of years later, it evolved into this big awakening for us both, our connection with Sasquatch and stuff like that. So it almost makes me think that somebody was tinkering with us, maybe an implant, I don't know, maybe something was going on that evolved into our relationship with Sasquatch and our understanding and our spirituality as it is now. So have you heard of anything like that? And what would you think of that?
Did any sleep paralysis come from this?
So
around this time?
No. We would just wake up and there'd be little drops of blood in the bed, and we just could never find an explanation for it.
Because my only association with that would be the things that they call incubus and succubus, which are negative inorganic beings that attack us while we sleep. And as far as them, they all manifest. They use the blood to try to manifest in things. So it could have been what it is. But a lot of times when that type of an attack occurs, I believe it's incubus that attacks females, like sexually at night and aggressively, and it's the succubus that attacks men. But nonetheless, they're these. That's normally when I hear about that, it's associated with sleep paralysis. So that was the only category I could put it with.
There was nothing negative from it, though. That I honestly think it was prepping us for something that was going to happen. There was no I've never had a negative experience with Sasquatch or any of this. It's always been really positive and uplifting and stuff. So I don't think it was that personally, but I just thought I'd run that by you and see what you thought.
Yeah, that's the only reference I would have to it, because anything that I don't see what Sasquatch would need your blood for, and why they would need you to bleed on their. I don't understand. But that's not my experience, though. But like I said, that's the only one I have concerning sleep type of thing and blood. But a lot of times people wake up with that too, with stigmatas on there and scratches on them and marks.
No,
and
we never had any of that.
So something else I've not experienced either. So.
Oh, okay. So, do you have any actual? And we're not about the physical and stuff so much. We're more about the teachings, the lessons, stuff like that. But have you had any actual encounters with Sasquatch individuals in the physical, or?
I've never seen one physically. They did the howling at me, the rocks, the sounds, in several different ways and other ways to communicate with me, but I've never actually seen one. And, you know, it's interesting because I thought I might, the last time I went to that ranch, I thought I was kind of supposed to see one, but I might have left too early or something that I didn't. And I wound up seeing it later in pictures, but it's still kind of phased out. So personally, I've never actually physically seen one. Yeah. You know, I can tell you honestly, now I'm at a point I could accept it and handle it and probably not, you know, freak out like I would have a few years ago. But I know more about it now than I did before. So
Yeah. You know,
it's ever evolving. And the more I learn, like I said, I keep getting more questions. The more I find out about them, the more questions I got. But it's kind of cool and it keeps you going forward. You know, I think it's important.
and I'm not saying you have fear. I'm not saying that at all. But as a general rule of thumb, the Sasquatch will not work with you beyond your fear level. So you have to kind of get comfortable with things before things evolve. Now, you know, when I saw the individual I showed you in my picture there, and that's not the first time I saw him. That's just when he showed up when I invited him to appear. But, you know, people always think, oh, I want to see one. I want to see one. It's the end all. It's, you know, like I want to see one of these guys. And I found out that when I actually did see him, and it was a really dramatic occurrence, and there was a big lesson, and there was all kinds of stuff involved with it. But I had a big knowing, a big realization that when I finally did see my first Sasquatch, and that was RE, that it was just like a cherry on top, because it wasn't the end all it was amazingly cool, but I realized that all the lessons and the knowing and the teachings and all that stuff, like the lessons, were much more important than the actual you know, seeing one. But it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing one, you know, just because I think it'd be really cool. And sometimes, you know, it's just good. I like to see one, and I figure if it's in the cards, it will happen. They'll make sure of that. So I'm not worried.
Yeah.
At this point right now, you know, I've been around enough non-humans that it's all good. You know what I mean? I've been around several different beings. None of them go along with modern ufology. I had to deal with that and other things. So my fear base is not that high, you know, but the truth is we don't really know what they are. Okay. Outside of some type of modified human. And that means caution has to be exercised always. Self-preservation and caution. You know, when I've been around some of these non-humans, even though I feel this Shakti Pat type of love coming off them, I still ask, who are you? Where are you from? What do you want? Some people criticize me for that, but they could be deceivers. You got to be careful, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying yours are, but I'm saying it's self-preservation and investigation and inquiry is good, you know?
I've always thought that energy is a universal language. So I pretty well trust the energy around the individuals and whatever. And if it feels like really, really beautiful and loving, then I do tend to trust that, because I think there are some rules where you can't, where something negative or whatever cannot interact with you on that way. There's got to, you know, so I do trust it when I feel the energy. And like I said, for reading energy. So tell us about some of the non-human humans you met. Now you got me really intrigued now.
Okay. One was individual that was Insectoid that I mentioned before. And it gave me a name that sounded like Yandar. But when I saw it, it was a Z. So Xandar is what came out of that name. And very few of the beings I've dealt with actually have names. I think that's more of a human classification. This being, like I said, it wasn't a praying mantis looking being. It looked more like a grasshopper and had body proportions to about me when I was about 7, 8 years old. So it's a smaller being, okay? But this was Insectoid, like I said. Another one would be a being that gave me a name, Mana, Maana.
Can I interrupt you? Sorry. Did you actually see them in the physical, or did they appear in your dream or something? You actually saw it
physical. It's physical, and they're there. Like I said, and then when they back off, you're not in their presence. All of a sudden, it gets weird. Like, what just happened? I was just present this being, and it's like it starts fading. It says a lot about what these beings' biofield is and when you're in their biofield, what it does to you, and then when you're not in it, it makes the remembering of them and the interaction difficult. And I think for some of these beings, that's maybe a defense mechanism. They've evolved over the age, and for others, I think it's simply a vibrational density difference between us and them.
Can you give us a little more detail about the little grasshopper guy? Like, what were the circumstances? What happened when you saw him?
Well, first he would come, and he came and played with me several times when I was a kid, interacted with me. One time he even showed up and stopped these kids from pushing me off a slide. So in that way, other people were able to perceive him, but nobody was seeing him as an insect, and neither was I at that point. Then time going forward, okay, several years, I have this experience in the 6th grade that I call the acid rain experience. And this is one where I woke up, I was not at home, I was on board this craft, and no matter what vibration you get or not, that's startling, okay? Even if you're getting the love vibration or not, you wake up not at home, it's a trip. And I'm on board this craft, and there's this, in the room, in the back, there's this type of an engine, a very large engine, okay? It's these 3 crystalline, this is a quasi-crystal engine is what I call it. Actually, I think it's a brain now. Anyway, in this front room, this being is floating over the deck plates, and on the side is actually a screen. Most of the ships I've been on board don't have windows because they're organic, but this is some type of a projection screen here, okay? And I see over it is this craft. There's 2 other crafts, and it looks like a mountain pass, a snow-covered mountain pass, which I've never seen anything like that before. And these ships look like they're sucking up clouds underneath them, okay? And on these deck plates is this insectoid floating, and he's got on a white outfit uniform with the gold like sash type of thing on it, and it looked very scientific official, okay? And I recognized immediately this is the same being that had helped me even build the dams, and it got me pushed off, not pushed off the slide. I interacted with several times, but I didn't perceive him the same. He appeared to be insectoid, grasshopper with milky colored eyes, slightly light green colored skin, but with milky colored eyes, no antenna, and about the size of me when I was that age, okay, in the 6th grade. But nonetheless, and immediately he starts answering my questions before I can formulate them telepathically in my mind.
Wow.
That was disconcerting, okay? And, my first things are, what the hell do you want? Where the heck are you from? Yada, yada, yada. And he's telling me, go 9, he's telling me you won't understand. And I found that insulting because I'm like, okay, you're trying to deceive me because I thought I was heavy because I watched Doctor Who. So he tells me, go 900 billion light years out beyond the space-time continuum. Okay, I didn't know what that meant, all right? And then he's communicating, and this is already comes in like instant before I can think. And the other thing is, I don't understand. So go to the 3rd and 4th planets outside of Pluto. And at that time, I'm thinking it might be deception, because I don't even think Chiron, the moon of Pluto, was found at that time. Fast forward it, 30 some years old, I'm sitting in my office, and they announce the discovery of trans-Neptunian objects, which are these objects outside of these asteroid belt outside of Pluto. And there's several of them out there that they say are the size of Pluto or bigger. And he was telling me that those are jumping off bases. They're bases on those two planetoids as bases that are jumping off for our solar system because they have problems with the density. Now I know more what that means now. The density from where they're from here is very dense, the solar system. And also here in our specific atmosphere, he was making references to what I call the M&M effect. The microwaves and metals in our atmospheres are very dangerous for beings that aren't from here. So a lot of them won't come out of those craft. And that's the experience with him, and that one, I saw him on several different craft. All right, as to where I saw Mana on several craft too, or beings that were smaller than Mana that were slightly phased out. And when describing Mana, I've got illustrations of all this shit on my YouTube channel, all the stuff on my YouTube channel. Just go to the playlist and personal encounters. I've had probably about 30 or 40, almost 40 sketches done by Christine Dennett. Kisara to represent these beings and what happened.
Is your
So,
channel just Barry Webster? What's the name of the channel?
Barry Littleton, yeah.
I'm
Sadly,
sorry, Barry
I don't have any
Littleton.
cool. I don't have any cool handles or nothing. And I got shadow banned a while ago, but if you type my name in, it comes up now. So,
You sent me all
but
the links that you want included in the video, right?
yeah, both of them.
I'll have them, and I'll have all of Barry's links in the YouTube video.
I think people need to look you up because you got more than you can cover in 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there. I try to incorporate everything, and it's trying to figure out, just what I was going through, what's happening to all of us, and if it illuminates anyone, it's worth it. You know what I mean? I don't have all the answers, but at least it's a chance, and not just sit back idly. But
I was just thinking, when I had my praying mantis experience, it was a knowing. It was like what a know. You obviously know what a knowing is. I mean, you obviously must have experienced that with somebody with your experiences, but it was just a knowing that it was me, right? And you talked about like some of these beings that we encounter are actually future us or interdimensional us or whatever. Did you feel that this little guy, this little grasshopper might have been you?
Well, I tell you one thing, he didn't feel the same as the kid I've been playing with. Same being, but in this uniform and in that position, he seemed very ancient and like a scientist and things of that nature. And then going further away, later on, evaluating a lot, picking up things about him. And I became curious why some of these beings such as him stepped forward when I was a kid and then stepped back and others came forward. Why? Like, for example, why was all of a sudden Mana comes forward and then stayed for a while and then is gone? And why, more than that, why are these beings not just interested in me? What is their connection with the earth? What's with the earth matrix? And, this being Mana, when I showed illustrations of this being, the first interviews I did, I got more responses on this being than probably any others. And what Mana looked like, about 7 feet tall, a little more maybe, but the head, large head that looked like a reverse brain, black eyes, circular eyes. And when I say this reverse brain structure, the only thing I've seen on Earth that looks like it is brain coral. And, when I start asking, I start trying to reach out to this being, so what happened to you? What's with the Earth? What's the connection? And, I wake up one morning obsessing about coral bleaching. Guys, I didn't know what the heck that was, okay? I wasn't familiar with it. And what actually is happening in the Great Barrier Reef and other things, so this bleaching of the coral. And, getting through that and finding out more, the scientists are trying to develop something they're calling supercoral, which is actually resistant to the bleaching effect. Now, this leads me wondering this. Mana's connection is with this and brain coral and our planet. Is that a species of supercoral that went sentient supercoral that went galactic in the past, or is it in the future? I mean, I can't say exactly what the being is, but that's what I came up with, And so I think, but also understanding that we're dealing with trillions of galaxies in this universe. And now we got to deal with thanks Rudy, the universal aspect too. Great.
Yeah.
I talked to another experiencer, one that I'd actually seen on this craft I described to you when I was 17. 2 of those people I've met in my personal life. The first one is a gentleman that got me to speak forward the first time in 2014. He got me to do my first interview, Bill Spicer. I saw him on this craft. And he's somebody that contracted with my father, who's almost 80 at that time, and not into the stuff, okay? And he's talking about UFOs, yada, yada. He's also a pilot. He said, "We're crazy like my son." He talked to my son, And this guy wouldn't lay off. He just kept pursuing me. I tried to act like I didn't know what I was talking about. He didn't know nothing. He wouldn't go away. But then when I meet him in person down at the office, he's this guy I saw on the craft, one of them that was touching the light. And there's somebody else I met in my real life now that was on there that's well known in this community. I could say her name now since Alexis Brooks exposed what I was saying and did a show about it. It's Susan Manwich. I saw Susan Manwich on that ship. Okay. And it's interesting because Bill has a memory of the experience he had with the light and what it looked like, the black box. He remembers all that, as to where Susan doesn't. And I'm thinking to myself, not fully. She recognized the technology in the sketches, but she didn't quite have the awareness that Bill had during the experience. But both of them are half phased out. They're in their energy bodies. They've been bilocated, and they're throwing up like I'm about to throw up. They're about to put it into the whole experience, fellas. It's about it over. I'm going to lose my cookies. And, I had to figure out why I don't like merry-go-rounds now. That's why. Or even when you go down a roller coaster the first time, it takes your stomach. Oh, it's like that, but it never goes away. And then they're into your mind too. And it's like you're seeing stuff. Whoa! And I was one of those kids you wouldn't like to take a field trip with, because I was one of those kids. What's that? What's that? What's that? Especially if it was science stuff. You know what I mean? I run off from the group and stuff. And I wondered, later on, why was I allowed to move around on most of these ships somewhat unescorted? One is I'm so sick, this temporal aphasia, I can't steal nothing. I was thinking one day I'm going to take something and I'll bring it back and I'm going to prove what's happened to me. But that you can't do that. The vibration's off. You're getting sick on board there. There was no time to be grabbing anything. And more than that, this craft itself, being a sentient space organism, perhaps thousands, if not millions of years old, who knows? It knows and is scanned like the Sasquatch, my soul life memories. It knows me.
Yeah.
Worked together before. So not just does it have that ability with us, but also to select, as Michael said earlier, Mako, for a transport to another universe and a transport through a path of most coherency. That's heavy. It took me a while to accept it. Kind of like being out at that ranch in Washington. I got somebody else walking with me. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we go to what they call the Pleiadian Circle, and we're just standing there talking. And I keep looking at this pine tree, and it's a UFO there. Okay, it looks like a star though, and I can think, well, it's got to be Jupiter, as large as it is. But then it starts moving a little bit. And finally, the gentleman I'm talking to, he worked out there. Albert was his name. He says, Barry, do you see that light there? I said, yeah, actually I do. And then it moves over to the other side of the tree, and then it starts morphing, It starts moving towards the mountain over there called Sleeping Lady. It turns into 5, goes back to 1, 5, back to 1. And this guy's pretty young. He's maybe 26, 27. He's kind of leaned over like a football player going, whoa, whoa. When he's looking at this thing, it goes over this. It goes to this in front of this mountain, and the top of this mountain is called Cat's Peak, I think it is. And it goes down, It's illuminated, and it goes out when it goes behind the mountain. Like 2 seconds later, guys, it re-illuminates. And when I say that, I can see it through the mountain.
Whoa.
And you don't understand. I mean, I'm sitting up here tripping. I'm high in the mountains. It's late at night. Maybe the oxygen has gotten to my mind or something, and my visual acuity is off, and it went down in front of the mountain and then re-illuminated. But when I thought that, it does it. It rises, still lit up above the mountain, and does it again. And poor Albert is over there looking for football. He's I was like, man, we hadn't communicated. And I said, Albert, what are you seeing? And he's like, it's impossible. It's impossible. I said, never mind that. What are you seeing? And he says, it's got to be some sort of a trick. I can see through the mountain. I can see it through the mountain. I said, okay, I had to know, because that type of, in case I've lost it or something, maybe TBI finally took Barry out. Who knows? But I knew that type of delusion is not shared, And dealing with that type of a light, I think we're dealing with octopole light, a type of light like that that's more perceived by the pineal and things, even though it's on that level. Anyway, so this, and I can sit here and tell you guys about
or they just move them, or they just move the atoms of the mountain. They just move the atoms of the mountain. The light went right through it.
Well, you know, it comes back up and it does it the second time, and then it goes down a little bit more, and it goes out finally, like it was going down and went down in.
You ever
But
talk to any contact people who said that they've flown through the sun or through the earth with their craft?
no, not talked to, but I have some things about that I've seen concerning the sun and
But
them
that's what
using
I'm
what
saying.
we call the
If they
black
can
holes
fly,
as
if they can
portals.
fly a craft through the earth, through the center of the earth, or through the
Mhm.
center of the sun, we're talking about a different kind of physics here.
Oh, definitely. You know, and I could sit here and talk about the holographic universe and Michael Talbot was a contactee. Man, who cares? That means nothing. That's just talk. And I saw this stuff happen, and it pushed my perception so far. You know, I looked like Chuck Connors that rifleman when he walked through the desert. My stuff was all chapped, you know. It was all
I hated
chapped
that
up,
kid
man.
on that show. That kid irritated the hell out of me. Oh, oh.
Oh, the innocent boy. Oh, you like the innocent bark. the good sod buster. But this experience, I mean, it just blew me away, you know. And Albert's like, I gotta go to bed. So he went down to his cabin. I went up to the meditation room, and this lady named Soretta and her friend were sitting up there. And I went up there, I just started slamming the water. And they're looking, they said, did something just happen to you? And I was like, you know, the next day I did a video. James Gillian demands that Albert and I go out there and make a video about it. I looked like a little kid jumping around out there because of the elation and the thing. And I'm thinking, my goodness, these people live out here. How do they know that half of what they're seeing isn't what it appears at all? And James Gillian tells me that Cat's Peak where you're talking about up there, there's soldiers stationed up there. We've never known why. I said, whatever this is, it's not the military, but they must know about it, but they probably can't stop it. I mean, I got so blown away between that, the Sasquatch and the rocks on my doorstep. All this happened in 2016. I just went up there to speak. And, you know, I got blown away so much perception before I went up there to speak in 2017. A few weeks before, I did an intense professional hypnotic regression to find out exactly what I experienced out there. I don't sleep well, but the few hours I was sleeping, I felt like I've been in the mountain and maybe communicating even more with the Sasquatch than I was aware of, and just things like that happening, you know. And the fact that I think they've got mountain giants out there too. Maybe not the bad type, but there's something else going on out there. And the whole Oregon, Washington place, those people that talk about what they experience out there, you won't get any doubts from me. You know, up to a point of where, and what's it 2017, we're walking back from being off property by the river, trying to fish. We're walking up here, and they start yelling like cows. Okay, you know, and it's so loud, and we're walking by, and I'm with Albert actually, and he looks over, and he said, "Man, they're yelling. That's coming from where Tom Powell's cabin thing is over there. His little trailer is." He goes, "You gonna walk over there?" I was like, "Heck no, it's dark as hell over there." So there you go, Brian. The fear got me. I wasn't doing it. But you know, I walked by the Field of Dreams, and somebody's standing out there. And I said, I'm going to see who that is. So I go walk up and tap him, and it turns around. It's Tom Powell. It's like 2:30 in the morning. And I'm saying, man, all these sounds over here. And I'm talking to him. He's looking at me. Then he pulls his hoodie off, and he pulls out he's got earphones in. He's blasting Duran Duran. It was really loud. And he said, no, Barry, I've been watching these UFOs going off the mountain and everything. And I said, man, you know, these Sasquatch are sounding like cows are howling over there. It's coming near your trailer. Like I said, man, are these things following you around? And he's so surprised. Like, oh, Barry, it's been said, Barry. It's been said. I'm like, he's telling me stories. Like he said, he said he said he was at a ranch just outside of Mount McKinley, is it, or the other one out there? Yeah,
Adams?
I think it's McKinley.
Adams?
No, not Adams. The McKinley, and what's the other? Helens? Is it St. Helens? I'll say it. There's a ranch around one of those. He said it's 2 hours from his house. He said he was still on they were only apes deal, and he's out there banging sticks and doing all that, not getting any response. And one time he's out there banging to like 4 a.m. and he said nothing happened. So he gets in his car, 2 hours, drives home, and he gets on his property. He's pulling his camera out of the trunk, and he gets a respond knock from the woods by his house.
Yeah.
And he tells me other things. He said, then I got hip to mind speak. I go out there and talk to the farmer, and I talk about mind speak, and he said, oh yeah, we get this out here. Yeah. And he said, but my wife and my daughter get even more than me. And he says, I've been out here setting up camera traps for 2 years. Why didn't you say anything? He said, we didn't want you to think we're crazy. And then he says, and the lady tells me, I started smoking again, and I was outside in the foyer, and they started communicating with me just last night. And he's like, what did they say? They said, well, the smoking's bad for me. It will kill me, and to stop trying to trick them. And he's looking at me with this look. He goes, Barry, I knew they were talking about me. So I asked him, can you ask them to step in front of the camera? And they said no. But then he's got these shadows. He's got these shadows going across the camera like he never had before. And he says, well, will you tell them to give me a bone? And underneath his gifting set, he finds a bone like a day or two later, okay? Stuck in there. And he said he took it, he went crazy. He took it, got it analyzed. He's got a Sasquatch bone. And when he gets analyzed, it turns out it's an emu femur bone or something. And this wife's father, like 30 miles away, has an emu farm or something.
Yeah.
And he's looking at me and he said, Barry, I didn't tell him what kind of a bone. He said, that's when I realized I'm dealing with beings that have a great sense of humor. They made a fool out of me.
and also know what is going to what you're going to associate with and connect with.
Yeah,
because of they're so precise in their little details or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember one time, just one little quick story. I was at one of my gatherings, so I hold Sasquatch gatherings every once in a while, all for free. I just invite people to come up and we just connect with the Sasquatch, and they work their magic with everybody. They do, and you're invited too if you would like to come one day.
Oh, thank you.
In September, actually. And so we're talking about the medicinal properties of dandelions, right?
That's shocking.
Yeah. Okay. No, we're talking about it. And like this kind of stuff, like this is just one little example. This kind of stuff happens all the time to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. So we're talking about the medicinal properties of dandelion. I'm out for a walk with this guy in the woods shortly thereafter, maybe an hour later. And what did we see? Right placed with purpose at the base of a tree, a little dandelion bouquet. You know.
You know that guy that you were talking about, and he drives 30 miles away from his house and starts banging on trees till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then he comes home, and the Sasquatch are on his property like a couple hundred yards away banging on trees. They're telling him, look, you're looking the wrong way. We already know what you want to do. We're already that to me is hilarious, because all my contact has been in the city of Miami and in the city of Savannah. I don't really go in the woods, but they're here. They come around.
Mm-hmm.
They come around. They throw rocks, or they'll give me little gifts or something.
They can be anywhere.
He said, Barry, you're familiar with the 100 monkey thing, right? I'm like, yeah. And he says, unless it's that, or they were using running like the Flash, the comic book guy. He said, or they got to be using portals. And he said to me, it just yelled at me like, now you're out there effing with us, and we're gonna F with you. Take that and figure it out. It was just hilarious,
I think they can be anywhere just with a thought. They can they just put the thought and the energy towards that thought, and then they appear where they wander. I mean, with me and the glyphs, the communication I have, some of them are very distinctive, and you can't mistake them. And I've been, I'm from British Columbia, Canada. And I've gone to Washington State and Oregon and all different kinds of places. And dozens of times I'd go out to where my car's parked in a blank kind of asphalt setting with not another stick or any kind of debris anywhere around. And there'll be a perfect glyph right by my door or at my house or whatever. So they can pretty well be and connect with you anywhere that they want. That's why Mr. Beans doesn't have to go out to the woods, because they just come to him.
They got a portal. I got a portal on my street, 2 houses away. And in that portal, I've seen something. I've been seeing like a whole bunch of stuff. They give me one time they dropped a rat out of thin air. I'm walking down the street, minding my own business, smoking my cigarette, and then this rat drops out. It materializes out of thin air and drops from about waist height down. The rat doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. The rat started to chase to me because he thought I was a tree, and I'm jumping up and down. Trying to get away. I mean, that's the kind of stuff they do. There's not too many times you see a rat falling out of thin air. That was just them saying, "We're here.
Wow.
We know what we're waiting for you."
Sometimes their vocal and lung capacity is incredible. Now this one would have been 2017. I walking up from that porch or from the street out there, the river at the city place, and they start yelling, and it wasn't even cow sounds this time. It was like yells, okay? And you hear one from coming the mountain range over here, another one from the Sleeping Lady mountain range, and another one behind the back 40 of the city. And this is so loud. As we walk up past the office, people start coming out of their cabins going, "What is that?" And I know in Albert, I was like, you're hearing them yelling. And then this guy, Peter O'Toole's youngest son, Larkin O'Toole, was out there speaking to. And he's a trip. And he ran out of his cabin with his recording equipment. And as soon as he came out of that door, all three of them stopped. It was unreal. And I sat there, I was like, man, that was really a trip. And the one little lady she goes, "Barry, they sounded like whales out of water to me." I started thinking, whoa, that does kind of describe what it sounded like a lot, taking a picture with Tom Powell, and this older lady's taking a picture, and she says, my brother lives in Texas or Oklahoma, and he's got them on his property, and they're stealing his chicken, and it's causing him a fortune. But he can't even see them, but they're out there, and he wants to know, what does he need to do to get rid of them? And Tom looks at her and said, "Oh, tell them just to get cameras, they'll be gone." Just like that. And I started laughing, man, uncontrollably, because I thought it was really quite funny. He's like, "I'm serious, Barry. They can smell the cameras, they can see them, and I think and they're just aware of the technology all the way, and they avoid it. And
there's another way. There's another way too. That's true about the camera. Obviously, there's another way. If you establish a good communication and a good relationship with them, you can just say, "You know what? Just take some of it or whatever, don't take it all. Don't steal from me. You can have some or whatever." And I've heard many times, and from my own personal experience too, is that's how it'll be. You just say, "I don't want you taking all my stuff, but if you want to take a few of the apples from the top of the tree, or you want to take a few eggs or something, then feel free. But it's not cool for you to take it all." And
he told me some strange things. Like he said, "Somebody like you," he said, "You ever thought about writing a book on them?" I was like, "No, I've not even seen one." He goes, "You sure do know an awful lot about them." He goes, "Somebody like you used to take a trash bag and go out to a remote place like a forest and just start picking up trash. You'll catch their attention real quick." That's what he said. He said, but when you go in, he goes, "You need to count the tree stumps around you. And then when you leave, after you picked up the trash, count them again." Okay, man. That stuff like that. I was a city cat. It blew me away. I think it's really cool and it's neat. So the fact that maybe we're at a point where we can get more of a relationship with them is really cool. And because the gifts that will come along from that, along with not just, and we're spiritual beings too. We've been cut off from most of our paranormal gifts, man. It'd be great to bring some of that back in and to really.
The Sasquatch have said that we have no abilities that you have not once had or do have that are just latent.
Yeah. That's pretty good. A question real quick. What do you all feel is the connection between Sasquatch and Dogman? What's going on there? I've heard things from some Native Americans in my area here that talk about that they're adversaries and that the Sasquatch was known to warn different tribes when Dogman was going to be in the area. So I'm just curious, but then the Dogman, you've got things like St. Christopher, was it? The dog-headed saint and things that go so far back. And I'm just curious what your view on all that is.
I've heard that they also,
really hot right now.
I think that they can also be friends with each other. I've heard many accounts where the Dogman and the Sasquatch have been interacting, talking back and forth. So I think I think some of the negative things that we think about these things are just from interpretation sometimes too. Like, you know, there can be an experience where, like, say, a Sasquatch throws a rock out on the path. To me, that's a hi, we're here. And I'm getting excited. My friends are here, right? Somebody else will look at that experience like, oh my God, you know, they're going to kill me, and they'll get their gun out and start blasting away. So maybe some of the perceptions of the relationship between Dogman and Sasquatch in some cases, it's just how that person, where they're at, you know, and their misconception or their conception or their perception of it. I think Dogmen are also spiritual beings. I think they're teachers. So I think that they probably in many cases get along.
My experience with that is I've been friends with Sasquatch right now for about 9 years, and a couple of years ago, I started getting. One time I went out, walked around my block at night, smoking a cigarette, and I heard a growl, and I thought that growl doesn't sound like Sasquatch, and it was sounded like a big wolf. And I said, "Hey, buddy, what's going on?" Because I knew it was something. I didn't know what it was, and it was like on the side of my street, sort of to the west. There's a little creek that runs by there. You know, Savannah's like it's a delta basically. It's all kind of little creeks and stuff. So anyway, I didn't think anything about it. But then a couple of weeks later, I had this vision. You know, I was like sleeping. I was sleeping, and I was like, or trying to sleep, and this Dogman came up to me. And for me, anytime a being comes into my vision at night, or when I'm semi-conscious, I always give them love, right? I just pumped out a lot of love. Said, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" And the Dogman just looked at me for a while and went away, and I just felt this. He wanted to check me out, and the feeling I got was he heard from the Sasquatch people that I was cool, and that he wanted to come see for himself. You know, I was like a friend to the cryptos. Then he came back a second time, right? And you know, he just looks like a big German Shepherd, and I was only seeing sort of his head area. And then the third time he came, and each time it was like he had the love that dogs have. You know what I mean? When the dogs give love to you, they're just like happy to see you. They're just kind of excited. Mm-hmm. Okay, now the third time he came with his wife and kids. Okay, so he came up to me and I saw him. Hey, brother. Hey, brother. How you doing? It's good to see you. I'm saying that to him. And then his two pups came. Now, this is the most amazing things that have ever happened to me in my life in terms of something like this. Is these little pups, and then this is in the dream time, but they came to me and they just started like wanting to play, just like puppies wanted to play. Now, if you can imagine puppies that just want to play with you, but that they have hands instead of pausing, they just can pull on your hair and touch your face and just like so happy to be with you. And then I was looking at the father, right? And I looked past him, and kind of way off in the darkness was the mother, and she was just kind of looking, kind of seeing what her babies were doing. So to me, what does that tell me? That tells me that these are benevolent beings, that at least the ones that I contacted with. You know, you got to go look back in history. The Dogmen have fought wars with us. The Sasquatch have fought wars with us, and they've both paid price for that. You know, the Dogmen have been hunted as werewolves and stuff, and they're still hunted as these terrible creatures. So they have an investment of not being seen, or if they are seen, they must be respected and feared so that people will not, you know. The same thing with Sasquatch. They're not supposed to be seen. And when they are seen, they want to put the fear of God into you to get the hell away from us. Because that's kind of the way they survive for a long time, is through not being seen and then blasting out fear, you know. Mm-hmm. So but that's changing now, and there's more and more Dogman interactions, and there's more and more Sasquatch interactions. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong. I don't know all the Dogmen. I know there's a lot of stories of Dogmen being hunted by the government,
or bred by them. I've been hearing that a lot too.
And then bred for the super soldier projects, and same thing with the Sasquatch. At one point, the Sasquatch people were really freaked out. I can tell you there's some things I can't tell you on the air, but there's 5 or 6 agencies that are trained, U.S. military, U.S. government, U.S. Secret Service agencies that are trained to deal with the Sasquatch people, and by that, the Black Ops people can take out a whole mountain range, like a whole mountain, right, in an afternoon, because they use high-tech weapons and infrared and drones and handheld rockets and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of pressure being put on them from the dark government, you know. So
yeah, I believe that.
But they can handle themselves. They know they're hard to catch and hard to kill, but they have been caught. They have been subject to mind control and scientific experiences. And the Sasquatch say when they see their brothers who've been taken and they come back as an enemy to the Sasquatch people, they said that their soul was taken. They're gone. They're not the same they're not the same beings anymore. So that's like a dark side of what's going on out there, and it is pretty dark.
Or turn them into these gugglies or put them out. I keep saying I'm just convinced that that's just a bad mutants thing that they put out to just discredit the other Sasquatch.
If they were a big deal, there would be dead bodies everywhere. You know what I mean? Even they have to keep their limits, because these aren't stupid beings. If you have some wild juggly kind of a guy going out there and terrorizing a town, like I said, they know that there's 5 or 6 agencies that will come and hunt them down and track them down. Those people are specialized with it, and they know who've done it. So even they keep their distance. And the same thing with the giants. The giants tend to stay far away.
Yeah. Several different types of them too, I noticed. And they got some sort of interconnection for sure. So, yeah.
But almost every state park has a secret military base on it. There's no national park or state park that doesn't have some kind of military presence on it, or some section of it that's off limits. Yeah.
I believe that definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Mr. Beans was telling me you're in, and I don't mean, and this is not condescending in any way, because I am of the same milk as well, but that you are into conspiracy theories. What is this true? And what are some of your favorite? No,
not especially. No.
Okay.
Not those guys.
But we live in such a concocted world that it doesn't take much, you know.
I was meaning like the black space program, this dark space. I was talking about that.
Okay.
That's what he knows about that kind of stuff.
Well, okay, just to clarify, and I mean, I think that anybody who's open and is opening up and is seeing what's going on in the world today, we're considered to be conspiracy theorists, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true to a degree. Yeah.
And that's one of the ways that we're diminished and kept at bay by saying, oh, they're nuts, they're conspiracy theorists or whatever, like.
Yeah, I definitely believe, that there's we live in such a concocted world that the amount of star intelligences that are here dealing with the various governments, that all needs to be definitely revealed, because it's been going on for ages. It's been going on since Homo sapiens was still more the troglodytes. So yeah, dealing with, I do this remote viewing show. It's Jessica Jones's show, and sometimes I'll give her a target and I'll do the show with her.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's super cool. Got to speak at a conference with her a couple of years ago, and again in Grafton, Illinois in May, when we speak at the JRT conference. But the amount of targets I've given her and the amount of connection it has with governmental underground facilities is quite staggering. And it's these targets, you don't even know what they are. And sometimes the connection there, like whether it be Mel's hole being connected to that, or them trying to trying to actually control it, I guess, all the way down to discovering like what they call TRAPPIST-1. I want to know why won't the James Webb telescope, why won't they tell us what they're seeing there around these exoplanets that go around TRAPPIST-1 and things of that nature. So I just will give blind targets like that and want to see what she sees. And what she saw on that one was fascinating as far as this thing would be like SSP, a type of a slavery program there, civilizations on several of the planets, in industrialization. And she's like, she know what the target was. She's like, Barry, what is this? Where is this? She thought it was somewhere here on Earth. I'm like, no. You know what I mean? And what she was seeing. And it's quite frightening. So whatever happened, I know what we're seeing from TRAPPIST now, even with the James Webb telescope, is still thousands of years old, that light. So whatever's going on there now, advanced wise, is something totally different, whether it be there, Alpha Centauri, all these places where there might be humanoids like us that come here and just mask themselves in the population. You can't tell.
Yeah.
Well, the lower lords, there's the dark entities that are trying to their best to keep the Earth under their thumb, under their hidden hand.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of jumped on this, and a lot of them have been earthbound from a long time because of other reasons. And when they jumped on this secret space program with both feet, and to them, this is what I hear, to them, they want to be able to go to a planet that is lesser evolved than humanity is, and just take over the whole planet, because they don't have any problem doing that, threatening them and giving them big demonstrations and just dominating them. And from what I've heard, that there are already a few planets who've fallen that way. And that's one of the things that the sort of like the white hat ETs, the good ETs are coming, is because they see the future, and that there's a timeline when this same kind of dark energy that goes and takes over lots and lots of planets, and then they become more and more technologically advanced and very hard to deal with, and they all trace it back to planet Earth, and that's kind of where we are now. So the spores of our evil are now escaped Earth's atmosphere and are spreading out across the galaxy. The potential is going to be bad news for this whole galaxy. So
I think
those guys are looking. Those guys have better looking, remote viewing and future seeing than we do.
I feel like energetically, and just like I just feel it. I think I don't see a doom and gloom scenario for us. So I think that those days of control and everything are coming to an end on this planet. And I think it's going to come to an end by our consciousness evolving. And that's what's going on now. And that's why Sasquatch and other benevolent teachers and guides are reaching out to us at this time in our history, is because I think that is what is underway, and that's what's going to happen. So we're all individuals, but and we have to have individuality as individuals, but do you think we're all one collective mind too, a universal collective mind?
Depends on what area you want to look at that. I mean, I'd say no, because we've got fashions here that are light and dark, and especially on this planet. And in a collective fashion, we're not going for the same thing. You know what I mean? But sadly, we create the morphogenic field collectively. And the morphogenic field on this planet is not a good one. That's got to change.
No, but I mean, yeah, I was talking about in your sense, because collective in the sense that we affect everything within the collective.
Well, you got quantum entanglement, so everything's connected anyway, scientifically speaking. So yeah, but
I don't mean a collective mind like we're all pulling the rope in the same direction.
Oh, gotcha.
But I didn't mean it like that. But that we all, our thoughts and our actions affect everything, and we create our reality through our thoughts and our actions, individually and collectively. Yeah.
I got this thing called TEEA, That's third eye entangled alchemy. And it's possible to use alchemy to transform the energetic patterns of the collective. Yeah. And because the thing that they tell you about entanglement, right? They tell you about entanglement in quantum physics, and they say, oh, there's a little photon over here, a little photon over there, and one spins this way, one spins that way. They don't tell you that it's absolute entanglement. It means we're entangled with everything. Every place that you can remote view, the reason why we can remote view it is because we're there and here. That's absolute entanglement. And when people begin to understand that we're connected to the dark, and we say, "Oh, I'm not part of that evil. I'm not that evil thing." But if you can reach out to that evil and change it by going full Kali, by repelling, or by raging or resisting from your third eye entangled alchemy. If that ever takes off, then things will change really, really quickly, because the evil exists only because we don't know how to fight it. We don't know. It's just sort of like beyond us. They bombard us with this traumatic events that are all the time. It's like a whack-a-mole. Every time our consciousness rise, they throw another thing, like a crashed economy or some kind of pandemic, or they throw something at us, and we just get in shock, and the shock pulls us back, or they put us in fear, and we can't rally our. Nobody's really in America anyway. Nobody's really protesting. You go to other countries, and there's like 1 million people over here protesting, and another 1 million people over there protesting. We don't. Our kind of programming makes us impotent, which is too bad. But because we need to protest what's not right. Injustice needs to be spoken. This is not right. Things are not right here.
So we're getting on to 3 hours, and we've gone on for 4 or more hours, but I don't want to disrespect you and keep you all day.
Thanks.
But I was just going to say, and then we have the question that we always kind of give our guests in closing. Is there anything else on your mind that you wanted to touch on, or that's on your heart?
No, I think those are important ones, which are, kind of maybe the connection between Sasquatch and other cryptids, such as not just the Wahili, but also the devil monkey and things like that. And we've got so many other cryptids coming through, because I kind of don't consider Sasquatch a cryptid, really. You know what I mean, in my opinion, because you've got these other things that, like the Otter Man and all these other things, these creatures and
Goathead Man,
perhaps dinosaurs. Yeah, Goathead, and things that are coming through right now, Chupacabra, that are either bleeding through the fault lines or coming from these installations that are underground and secret and being released, or destruction, whatever's happening. It's something, something negative.
Like the Wraith. You ever heard of the Rakes, the Wraith?
Yeah. And those to me look like ghouls. Some type of ghoul. Yeah. But that's what's in down here. Walking Dead, Living Dead. That's people watching that, and it's not that. It's MMA fighting, man. Everybody's watching that, praying somebody bleeds and gets busted open, and when they do, look at people's faces. Hey, it's a bad place here. It's it's definitely not Jedi realm, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if this question applies to you, because you've been open all your life or whatever. So it may not apply, but I'll ask it anyway, because we generally ask it. So what has changed in your life, if it applies, since your connection and your realization of Sasquatch? Have you changed?
I think it would be more open to just the possibility of connection between everything, between them and the entire phenomenon itself. And honestly, probably even a more awareness of the state of humanity and why a whole species would want to avoid us, and perhaps a greater appreciation for nature. You know, I'm still not the guy going to go out and pitch my tit and my bear wire, but it gives me a greater appreciation for the wilderness, for nature, and for the things that are undisturbed, you know, and for a species that can live so much in tune with the vibration and with nature itself, you know, that I think is really cool. And the possibility that they're representing, whether it's pre-human or whatever, and some type of an extragalactic or galactic species that's combined that we don't even know what they are. I think that's really cool. You know, there's so many different extraterrestrials. You got trillions of galaxies to pick for, let alone just in this galaxy, the planets. So we don't know really where they are, what they're. They're part tree. Are they part, you know, I became a little obsessed with finding out about their swimming, and the ones you hear about them swimming. They don't swim like humans, or in that they don't even use their arms hardly. And they sound very aquatic. And that's fascinating to me. And we know the gorillas, I mean, they can barely tread water. Like orangutans, I think, can dive, but they're not swimmers. That's a human attribute, and they apparently swim a lot better than us. So I think that's, you know, is that some type of a perhaps extraterrestrial aquatic species? Who knows? You know?
A lot of questions.
Kind of interesting, and it's fun to explore it too, I think.
That's one thing that I've realized is the more I learn about them, the more questions open up, you know, and the more possibilities, and every answer births other questions and possibilities.
Yeah.
So are you open to traveling? Can you come to Canada? Are you able?
Probably, yeah. I'm kind of got a one thing going on, but I might be able to. Yeah.
Because I am host, like I said, we'll wrap up in a second. I am hosting a camp out. It's called the RE and Family Camp Out. I invite a bunch of people up here who the Sasquatch tell me to invite, and you're on that list.
Oh, cool.
And we just come and we hang out, and they start interacting with us, and I'm getting energy right now. They want you there. They just start working with each individual according to what they need or whatever. And and it's not really, it's you can glamp, you don't have to camp, you know, it's
glamp. What'd you say? Glamp?
Glampers. Haven't you heard of glampers? That's guys that go to campsites, and that's guys that go to campsites and they're in like their RVs and stuff as opposed to being in a tent.
Oh, gotcha.
Anyway, this is a private site, and it's right in the heart of their home, but it's not like way out in the boondocks either. So you would fit in no matter what kind of direction you wanted to take.
Cool.
But yeah, it's September, and I'm going to keep in touch with you, and we'll
please do.
Hopefully you can come. And I just wanted to say we will include all your links in the YouTube video that I'm going to make. The links that you sent me, I'll put them in there for anybody who wants to get a hold of you. And also, you can also tell people how to get a hold of you now. And I'm also going to recommend and hopefully I would be honored if you would check out my YouTube channel, because every episode of the Pork and Bean Show is on there. And not only that, but I talk about a lot of my teachings from the Sasquatch and some of my discoveries, and I'd be honored if you would look at that. And it's called Sasquatch BC, The True Story. The True Story. But it'll be in the link of the video I make you too. But you know, I talk about how they're teachers, they're messengers, and generally about them and whatever. And I think that would interest you or anybody who's into that.
You haven't written a book, have you, Barry?
No, you know, I'll tell you, I've never had the patience to actually sit and write it. And I'll tell you, that goes before my accident too. I didn't have the patience then either. And it's weird because I have like all these sketches I had made from Christine Dennett of my experiences, because I was going to write and put them in a book, but I never had the patience to do it. So I've done a lot of stuff on YouTube and on Patreon too. But a lot of my stuff is on YouTube and a couple hundred videos. And I try to go over the sketches and just stuff that all connects this and answer some of the questions in a way that isn't so monotonous. That's always the same thing, you know, not always extraterrestrials, not always Sasquatch, not always portals. It's all the stuff goes together. We have to it's like a tapestry, you know.
But it's all connected too. All these subjects,
it all goes together.
For years, the UFO and the Sasquatch community, they were like almost enemies, and they like shun the other one. But actually, you were talking about your friend there, Mary Roswell.
Mhm.
She actually interviewed me, and I contacted her some time ago, and now she's very, very open to the Sasquatch and their role in all this, and realizing that it's really the same thing, just presented from a different entity or a different being. So
I found these. Tom had told me, he said that the Australian Yowie gets a lot of bad rap behind it, but it's actually quite similar genetically to the North American Sasquatch, North American
close.
Bigfoot. Yeah.
Sure.
So
Did you
The
want
people
to?
the people who are friends with them say that it's the same, but the people who are not friends with them, they have their take on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you want to share some? I am, like I said, I'm going to put your links, the ones and if you have any more that you want to send me in Messenger, do so. But I have the ones you sent me. It'll be in the video. But did you want to tell people while you're on the air where they can contact you?
Yeah, sure. I've got a website that still needs more work done. I don't get on there very much. That's barrylittleton.com, but it's also got links to my YouTube, my Patreon on there. Also, you can reach me, email barrylittleton13@gmail.com. And I think I've got that all straightened out, so I get people's emails now without all getting spammed. And I will get back with you if you either want to book a session with me or just rap about something. I try to keep in touch with people and help out any way I can. So.
And I
I hope
certainly
you come back too. I think you'd be good for another show. This was a lot of fun, and everybody loves you in the comments.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
cool.
Jordan, are you a member of the Pork and Bean Show?
Yeah, I actually wrote it down here. Yeah, and that's what this is called, right?
Are you a member of our show on Facebook?
No, I didn't know there was one. No,
there's a Pork and Bean Show group. There's a Pork and Bean Show group on Facebook.
Yeah,
and this
join
is a
us.
Pork and Bean Show.
We got like about 150 of these videos, that we've done over 4 years, and it's a really good group, and it's really respectful too. We don't tolerate trolls or anybody. We respect constructive questions, even ones that are questioning. But when people just start attacking people, we're not going to put up with that. So we'd love to have you as part of that. We'd love to have you as part of that. And
you want your mind blown there, Barry, before we go?
Sure. What's up?
We have 2 women who are the genetic mothers of Sasquatch, but they're not the birth mothers of Sasquatch. And one of the women has a picture has a drawing of her on a craft where she was taken on the craft to meet her children. So she has 8 Sasquatch children.
It's not McCrae, is it?
Huh? No.
McCrae? Okay.
But actually, Robin McCrae is our next guest, isn't she?
I don't know. Yeah, she is.
I did a show with her probably about a month ago. Her, Matt Delph, and Dr. John maybe, or David Scott is one of them. But yeah, it was she's a very interesting lady. Very interesting.
But have you ever heard that before? That there's the ETs are helping repopulate the Sasquatch population?
Not exactly. Not exactly like that. No.
So she was on a craft with one Sasquatch adult male and with an ET and his 8 infants. What
type of ET do you know?
Huh?
What type of ET do you know?
I don't know. I think it was just a regular. I don't know what kind it was. She didn't really talk about that too much. But if you really cared, I can hook you up with her. But I didn't want to talk about. Even though we had her on the show and they showed that picture, I didn't want to put her name out there. But it's just that's just fascinating. There again, we're talking about the connection between the Sasquatch people and the ET people and the humans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
I can send you her show if you want to see that.
Yeah. That's cool. I have heard accounts of people saying that they've seen Sasquatch watching babies that looked like they was hybrid babies in terms of like gray and human babies, and the Sasquatch seemed to be looking after them. I've heard that.
So anyway, Barry, thank you so much for coming, and I do hope that you come and be part of the camp out in September? Because I got a feeling that we would probably be laughing the whole way through, because you got a pretty great sense of humor, much like me. We'd probably have a lot of fun. And I
Oh,
hope you do.
thanks. Appreciate that.
And on your way by, pick up Mr. Beans. Right,
Mr. Beans. Okay. I finally figured out what that is now. I get it. Okay.
Well, that's why we call ourselves the Pork and Bean Show. I'm Pork Cunningham, and he's Frank Oliver Bean. So
These are aliases
Yeah.
that we use to protect our true identities.
so we're not shamed in public. No, I'm just joking. We're beyond shame.
Oddly, I sat here with you both and never even looked at the names on there. Odd, sometimes
No,
the
I'm Mike
obvious is
Carroll, that's
overlooked.
Brian Bland. Brian Bland's an author. He's got a book, and we started this whole thing just for fun. The whole point of the Pork and Beans Show is we talk to people who are friendly and compatible or knowledgeable about Sasquatch, and they're not a demon, not a devil, and don't kill them. Don't dissect them to prove to some. You want to know what, in terms of cryptids, you want to know who the most mysterious cryptid is?
What's that?
It's the scientist who's going to pay attention to Sasquatch, and the scientist who's going to pay attention to the UFOs. Everybody's trying to give proof to the scientist, and there's no scientist there that I know of. They're ghosts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Barry. Thank you so much, man. You were a great guest, and we love you. You're already part of the family, so you better join our Facebook group and cement that deal. So I would say that on behalf of Pork Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Baines, this has been the Pork and Bean Show. Thank you to Barry Littleton for being our special guest today, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. We love you all, and I think we're back next time with Robin McRae, I believe. Oh, and Barbara Jean Lindsay is coming up pretty soon with another friend of hers, and she'll be doing some readings and stuff for people if they're interested.
Cool.
You know Barbara Jean Lindsay? You know Barbara Jean Lindsay? She tells us a great story, but we've had her on the show like 20 times, right? But today I heard a story that she was asked to go talk at the Sasquatch convention. I think it was the first one in Washington State. And she was saying, and she had just met the Sasquatch. She didn't know anything about it. And then she says, I don't really have a story, because this, the lady, Kelly Rainbow's Butterfly, said, well, you just come and talk, right? And so she said, I don't even have a Sasquatch story. So 2 weeks before the event in Chewilla, Washington, she's driving her car. She's just going to go to the store to get something. And this Sasquatch just materialized in the car sitting next to her, and just looked at her and grinned. So that was her story. I thought that was what a great way to she needed something to talk about. It gave her something to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Good afternoon.
Barry, we love you, man. We'll be in contact, and I'll send you the video when it's edited, and I'd like some feedback if you watch some of my videos.
Okay, no problem. Okay,
see you, brother.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. You guys have a good day now. Enjoy the Super Bowl if you like that thing.
Oh, I do. Well, I'm from Canada, so I like hockey better, but I am going to watch the Super Bowl.
You know what I like from Canada? I like Smallville. It was filmed in Canada.
Oh yeah, the Superman thing. Yeah. Yeah, got you, man. Adios.
See you guys later. Thank you very much. What's that?
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.